We're going to use Fusion 360 to laser cut a tabletop machine guide in order to create a tabletop for our little activity table that we're creating here. So let's see what this is about. The idea here is that you get a copy ring attached to your router. You can see that there's a space for the copy ring, the silver thing down there, which fits into the router, and that protrusion then can fit into a copy guide or a template, and that template can then be followed by the router to make a nice even cut. So we can obviously purchase a range of different templates. You can get Hinge templates, you can get letter templates, but with our laser cutter we can cut our own, and we can cut them very cheaply and efficiently out of cardboard, which can be recycled, so we're not wasting too much, and we can make them for quite large services. In fact, you can actually create really large ones by adding smaller ones together if needs be. We're going to create one that fills almost the entire size of our laser cutter in order to cut, which is for us 800 by 500 millimeters, and we're going to look at this. Before we do this, we need to do some maths about our copy ring and the cutter that we're using in order to achieve this milling capability. We're going to have the two assumptions that we're going to use, and this may change for you depending on which router you're using and which cutter you're using, but for most of us we will be using a 16mm diameter copy ring, and we will be using a 1/4 inch cutter, which comes out at 12.5 millimeters. So those are the two assumptions we're going to use. Now, in order to do this, we need to do some maths. We have an inner offset and an outer offset, which we'll call our inset and our outset. The inner offset will be our inset, and that is going to be 16 minus 12.5 divided by 2, which is going to be an inset of 1.75 millimeters from the edge of our intended, or edge of our table. And the other side of the slot that we're going to be cutting is going to be our outset, and that will be 16 minus that 1.75 millimeters. So that's 14.25 millimeters. So we're going to have to remember our inset and our offset in order to do this particular thing, and you'll understand what this means fully as you follow the video through. So if you're not quite sure what I've done there, I've looked at the size of the cutter and the size of the copy ring, and I've done some maths in order to get that perfectly on, or as close to my intended edge of my table as possible. So let's work through and open up Fusion 360, and we see how we go with creating this. So here we are in Fusion 360, and I've created a little activity table. There's a Lego tray there. I'm going to put a tray in there, sort of a plastic sort of container for the Lego to go in. And I've already created a machine guide so that I've tested this principle. There it is there. If I turn the Lego off, you'll see that it sits over there on a piece of cardboard. And this is going to be what we create in order to create our copy guide, and you can see that the copy ring will sit in those grooves and cut around. I'm going to make some improvements on this one. For example, the tabs were a bit too big, so we're going to turn this machine guide off. Before we do this, however, we're going to modify, and we're going to modify and change some parameters. The parameters are what we've set. We're going to create two user parameters. The first one is what we'll call our inset, and we decided that our inset is a unit in millimeters, and it is going to be 1.75. And we're going to press OK on that. I'm going to create another one, is going to be our outset, and our outset in millimeters was going to be 14.25. Now I've created these as variables because we can change these later if we want to, and those user parameters there, or variables that we can change, just in case we change the size of our copy ring or something like that, or the cutter changes size, we can actually update those very easily without having to completely redraw this. So I'm going to press on OK. Now that we've got those two, we can start by drawing, and I'm going to create a sketch on the top of our table. Now that we've created the sketch on top of our table, I'm going to just move it around so that it's sort of nice and in the middle. And the first thing I'm going to draw is the outline of our object. And the outline of our object is going to be the biggest size of our cardboard, which is the biggest size that our laser cutter can cut. So I'm going to draw this and put the dimensions on it. The dimensions are going to be 800 and 500. And just to make it nice and easy for myself, what I'll do is I'll draw a line, and I'm going to draw a construction line. So I'm going to press on this icon over here. I'm going to go from the midpoint here. So as soon as I get that little triangle, that's where I'm going to go. So I'm going to click to accept that. I'm unclicking now, and I'm going to draw it down to this midpoint here. Actually, no, I'm going to draw it down to that midpoint down there, sorry. So to click that, and then I'm going to use the midpoint tool, click on the midpoint tool, click on that line, and then click on the origin, and that's going to lock it nicely in place. So that's the first part of my sketch done. I'm now going to draw the inset using the offset tool. So the inset is going to be this one here, and the inset is going to be set to the inset. So I'm going to type in I, and that's my user parameter of inset, and I'm going to press on OK. So that is there, and I did that as a construction line. So I'm going to press Ctrl Z to undo that, turn the construction line off, change it to offset again, and do inset. And one thing I'm going to check before I do anything else is to make sure it's actually inside the line. You can see it's not inside the line. So the inset is there, so I'm going to make it negative inset. Now it's inside the line. So the inset is inside of the outer edge of that thing, and if you imagine that the copy ring goes up against this edge here, because the cutter is slightly smaller than the copy ring, that's where the cut is going to actually be. So we're going to press on OK for that one, and now I'm going to draw another offset, and this will be the O one, which is the outset, and the outset is going to be out by so much, so that should be a distance between here and here of 16 millimeters. Let's just check that. So I'm going to press OK. I'm going to draw a temporary line from here to here, and I'm not going to click on it, but you can see there it's going to be 16 mils. So I'm going to press escape. That is what I need to draw. I'm going to do the same thing for this inside bit here as well. So I'm going to draw an offset, and this is going to be the inset, so the opposite set position. This number here is going to be the I for inset. I'm going to zoom up to see if it's outside. See how it's outside the line. I want that to be inside, so I'm going to make that the negative inset and go OK. And once again, I'm going to click on this and click on the line, and I'm going to use the outset this time, and the outset will be fine. So those are going to be the lines I'm going to cut when I do my copy guide. So I'm going to press on OK. Now if I just cut this out, it's going to create issues for me. But what I will do is I'm going to extrude this before it gets too complicated. So I'm going to finish my sketch. Now it's important to pay attention here because there is a little trick here. I'm also going to turn off the tabletop and all the other things. In this sketch, you'll notice that there's two lines here. It's important to note that there are two lines here, but we should be fine. What we're going to extrude is this one and this one. I'll turn that beam off there as well. So everything's turned off. It's going to be a new body, and I'm just going to make this, the distance, 3 millimeters. So that is going to be what I'm going to do to cut. But I need some tabs in order to hold this in place while it is cut. It's a good idea to have tabs going on straight edges. If you can't put them on straight edges, you need to put them on the outside curves. You don't want to put them on inside curves, but we've got lots of straight edges we can use. So I'm going to create a new sketch here, and I'm going to create it on this one here, and I'm going to put some tabs in place. Oops, I forgot to do something. Hit cancel, Control Z. Now when I created that last extrude, I'm going to double click here. I forgot to select this middle one here. Okay, that's better. So now I've got to create my tabs. So I'm going to create a sketch. I'll create it just on this surface here. And I'm going to basically zoom up with a rectangle on each one. And I'm going to create a rectangle here like so. I'm going to create a rectangle here. And a rectangle here. Try not to lock anything. And I might just put, before I put 2 rectangles everywhere, I'm going to put just 1 rectangle down here. And it doesn't matter if these aren't quite straight, because it'll still get to that point. And rectangle here, and probably another one just over here. So 4 all the way around. Last time I did 6 all the way around. So 4 all the way around should be good. It makes a slightly better cut. And now I'm just going to press escape, and I'm going to start playing with dimensions of this one. I'm going to drag this one down here so it's a bit bigger. The main dimensions I'm worried about are the thickness dimensions. So the thickness dimension there, I'm going to make that 12.5 millimeters, which is quite thin, but it's just a nice small one. It's easier to deal with. Whoops, I probably did double click on this and delete everything, and then go 12.5. 12.5 is a nice size for it to cut through, and it means you've got less sanding to do. Last time I did 20 mil, and it was just a little bit too big there. 12.5. One there, and 12.5 here. Oh, that's 2.5. 12.5 there, and 12.5 here. I probably shouldn't be typing in all of these, because what I can do is I can use the horizontal and vertical alignment tool to align this one to this one, align this one to this one, and then I can align this one here to this one here. And what I really can do, just to bring everything to the middle, is I'm going to draw a line, make it a construction line, go from the origin to the midpoint of this one, and then I can use the horizontal vertical tool to lock this horizontal, and that brings those nicely in a line. And I could probably do similar thing to this one, draw a line from this one here down to the midpoint of that one there, and once again use the horizontal vertical tool to lock that one to there. And then I can use the horizontal vertical tool from this one all the way up to this one. Just bring those nicely in place. I'm going to go finish sketch, and I'm going to extrude that one and that one. I missed something here. And that one and that one and that one and this one. And I'm going to extrude them to a surface. Let's just look at them from the top. This is bits get a bit confusing. And I'm going to extrude the distance to object and extrude it to the other side, so that they're going to come through there. And I'm going to make them into a join like so, and press OK. Now if I look at these from the home view, I've now got the tabs there. This tab is a bit thin, so I'm going to go back into this sketch, modify this, and realize how thin that is, because these are all 12.5s. The easy way to fix this is to go horizontal vertical and lock this one. Oops, undo, Control Z. Horizontal vertical, lock this bottom line here to this bottom line here like so. That's going to fix that up and finish the sketch, and now that's nice and even with everything else. Now that might be strong enough. It should be strong enough for me to do this. If not, you could probably put a couple of extra tabs here and there, but I'm thinking that that is a good size to do. So that is ready for me to send to the laser cutter. Let's just see what it looks like on the tabletop. See that it matches up perfectly with everything. There's a little bit of a lip in there, and that's what you'd expect, because the cutting tool is slightly narrower than the guide tool. It's probably going to be a little bit too thin there, so you might actually want to put extra in here. So if it's too thin at any point, you might want to put an extra marker here or a tab across here so that you can go through. Once you've got that now, The final thing to do is to get it to a DXF file so you can take that into Adobe Illustrator. So if I create any sketch on this surface now, and I press P to project, and I click on the middle of the surface and press OK, that sketch is now finished. This sketch here, I'm going to double click on this and say this is the machine guide sketch. The machine guide sketch is what I'm actually looking for, so I can right click on the machine guide sketch and save that as a DXF. That's going to save that file as a DXF. I'm going to save it to the desktop, and I'm going to call it machine guide for activity table. So I know what I'm talking about. That's going to save to the desktop. You can save it to downloads, you can save it to your documents, whatever you want to save it. I'm going to hit save. I can then take that into Illustrator as per the normal laser cutting routine. I can put text on it to indicate certain things. I can, for example, I can say, notes on it as to how things should go. And that is how you create the copy guide or the machine guide for my activity tabletop.